What is up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Tottenham Talk. We are back with a weekly roundup, the first weekly roundup of the Conte era. Matt, today we are going to talk about two games, Vitesse and Everton. And then we're going to kind of talk about what we think, how glory-filled the start of the Conte era has begun and where we think it's going to take off after that. So let's hop into it. Right. A big week of news and transfers, and not transfers, but expected transfers in January. We have people going out in January because of Conte. You know, you see all over Twitter, it's Conte is looking to get rid of this guy and this guy and this guy immediately. And honestly, I'm not sure if that's true. So going into the Vitesse game, he was saying that, or maybe it was after the Vitesse game, he said he's willing to give any player a chance as long as if they show him they deserve the chance, or they work hard and they earn it, then he'll give him the chance to start. And I love that. I love the clean slate idea that he's given this team as far as going to Ben Davies at left wing back or at left center back, you know, and being confident with that choice because, you know, another manager, maybe Nuno, could come in and say, well, these players, they're not that great, blah, blah, blah. I'm not going to play them. I'm just going to have that predetermined thought in my head. I truly think he went to training ground and he said, all right, let's see it. And he took the best 11 he thought, you know, maybe on that given day or, you know, things like that. So I really am enjoying so far. And I like kind of that, how we went about that. Let's talk about this Vitesse game, right? First 25 minutes, I thought we were going to win the league. I mean, the way we played the free flowing attacking football of press, energy. And we scored 3 goals. And then next thing you know, we still realize we're fallible and we still are Tottenham Hotspur with some major issues and a rebuild ahead of us. What are your thoughts?
You know, it's challenging because, you know, we're put in 4 different competitions, you know, Carabao Cup, FA Cup, Conference League right now, and then, you know, our Prem. And the competition's just it's so different. Such a big variety of just,
you know, I have a question for you.
Yeah.
When you talk about the competition, obviously Premier League is top of the top, but I kind of felt like the games we played in the Europa League versus the teams that we're seeing here are not that different. And in some cases, I feel like the Conference League teams are better. Like,
it's weird.
I don't know.
I feel like the conference teams go into this thinking, oh my God, this is Tottenham. Like, we can beat these guys.
Yeah, they come out every game.
Every single time I've seen the team come to us, I mean, despite some in the past at least, but like, you know, Vitesse and even Rennes. I mean, those are two teams that you'd think maybe in 2016-17 season we would demolish, but now it's like.
But those are also like 2 decent teams, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, there are.
Like Vitesse is a good team in the Eredivisie, and then you've got Rennes, who's a decent team in Ligue 1. And it's not like we're playing all these random, you know, smaller European country league teams like I thought we were going to be in the Conference League. You know what I mean? So it's very interesting to see. I mean, although it is the 3rd tier of European football, it is still European football and it is still good teams. So I'm excited to see how we do with that. But sorry, continue with what your thoughts were.
No, I'm pulling up the Premier League website just like of the game, just to see like, you know, what they put out here because I love reading this stuff and they kind of sum up the game as well. But, you know, after watching Everton's game, because that's probably one more game that I would rather talk about than Vitesse. The big thing with Everton that I thought was, I guess, promising, maybe a little more optimistic, was it looked like Tottenham in the past.
You said the Vitesse game?
No, Everton game.
Really?
Well, I mean, I thought at least towards the end, we kept going forward. And it got to a point where it was, I think, the second half. And, I mean, Reguilón's going on his right foot to take a shot. Romero's making a run forward. I mean, our defensive line is in their defensive third.
Yeah.
And it just shows how high up the field we are. Now, I want to go back to previous games and see when's the last time we were like, not just, you know, high press like that, but we weren't scared. We get the ball and we control it for a second and then move it. Like it just for
Yeah.
me, I thought for me, I was very, very confident with what we were trying to execute. We just weren't good enough to execute it. I
Yeah,
felt like I
totally.
knew what Conte wanted from us, and we were trying to give him what he wanted. We weren't good enough to do it yet. And I think that's why he said, you know what, despite the draw, even going to Everton and Goodison Park, it's tough to go there and win sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just don't, I hate playing against Everton. Everton, like Crystal Palace, like those teams always somehow just can slide in there a point or even beat us. I mean, being a Tottenham fan, you've seen that in the past, and so it's tough going into a game like this with all the confidence in the world, saying, "Oh, we should win this." But obviously, right now in the state of the club, I think it's very appropriate to be like, "Well, this game could be a loss, or we could draw, and we could also win." Obviously, all three options are available.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. You talk about managing expectations. Sorry, I cut you off there.
no, you're fine.
Continue.
I was just kind of going into this game more because I felt like we saw more of Conte's, because Conte's lineup for this game was the same as Vitesse or Vitesse, whatever you pronounce it. But it's interesting because Nuno, that'd be different. I feel like it'd be two different squads, and so it shows me Conte. It's showing to me at least what Conte is doing, that clean slate. He's rebuilding, of course, and I hope, or I at least think that in the back of his head, people who are, starters now aren't going to be starters potentially in 2 months, depending on signings we get. If we pick up, say a backup striker or someone who else is a striker, well, you could definitely see maybe a 3-5-2 coming around. But,
totally.
Which I think could be absolutely deadly of a formation with the guys we have, if you put into what he did at Inter. So anyways, I don't know, but I'm very curious to know his selection. I'm very curious to know the consistency behind his selection. It's so interesting being, in this state of the club and being a big supporter of this club and having 4 managers in the past, 4 years?
Yeah.
Right. And so, Tanguy comes in and now has been under 4 different managers. So under a guy
And Lo Celso
coming under a guy like, in a club with, all this coming up from the bottom, basically, on the come up, and you go to the Champions League final and then, crap hits the fan, and, unfortunate for Tanguy and stuff, but the club just kind of went downhill from there. And then manager went to another manager, and then went to another manager. Now we have another manager. So we're back at full circle when Inter Milan was looking to maybe get Tanguy and swap for Skriniar. You remember that? Those little
Yeah.
back. So I'm very curious to know on how he's going to run it. But back at when Conte ran ran a 3-5-2 at Inter with Lukaku and Lautaro up top, and then his midfield was Brozovic and Perisic. He had good guys. Good back line was probably the best too. But I think what he's going to try to instill in our formation and our players is going to be very, very beneficial for us in the future. I think we're going to see a whole new team soon, because his word choice is so interesting. I want you to kind of go on and talk about what you think, but his word choice is so interesting about will and fight, and it's just something that sticks with me.
Yeah, totally. Well, let's stick with the games a little bit before we hop into that. But so like going to Vitesse, what I thought was interesting was that in such a short period of time, you could see what it meant to the players that Tottenham had picked a manager like Antonio Conte. They were totally different players, born anew from what they had been playing in the past. There's always players that fight, like we talked about. I think Lucas is one of those. Højbjerg is one of those players, but even them were like, there was a new sense of urgency, a new sense of purpose, a new path that they could see they were on. And it's nothing against Nuno, but you could see it in their fight. And Conte, not even having had 24 hours with them, I think his work visa officially came in that morning. So he really hadn't even gotten to officially work with the team. And he's already throwing in this lineup. He's throwing Ben Davies in at left center back, which I hate to say it, it's not even a bad shout. It's not even a bad option, because
what's weird is in the past when like Jose did that, I hated it.
Yeah, but Jose's 3 in the back was very different. So keep that in mind. But anyway, is my audio cutting out?
No, you're good.
Okay. So to my point, you look at players like Reguilon, who now and Emerson, who have the freedom now to go forward. As well as we've played the last two games, I am more humbled to see that we still have holes to fill. You know what I mean? I think people like, me and you especially, everyone loves to just be cheering. And there was no better time on Twitter than the 48 hours when Conte first got hired. I mean, it was tweet after tweet.
It was
Tottenham are such a big club. Tottenham are massive. We love it. Was just positivity everywhere. And, it's easy to be humbled.
Tottenham.
It's easy to be humbled very quickly when you realize, what, just because he's here doesn't mean that things change. I think Harry Kane still has questions to answer. I think that Sergio Reguilon has not had the best season, and I don't think he played well on Sunday. And I think the sub that he played with Matt Doherty was a fine sub. The only issue is, no offense to Matt Doherty, he's not a left wing back. He's a right wing back. And at best, right? I think that once we have, even Sessegnon healthy to be able to challenge players for competition in those spots, I think players like Reguilon will clean it up like that, because complacency is a real thing, Matt. You look at players, Harry Kane, for example, right now, there's no situation in which Harry Kane doesn't start.
Right.
In his head, at least, right? In our heads, it's easy for us to say, oh, we'll bench him. But, we're not the ones that get paid based on our choices that we make, right? So, once we get some competition in there, even with Vlahovic, if we could get him in January, you get to see these players having to actually fight for something and play for something rather than just kind of showing up to work, right?
Yeah.
They're just clocking in, clocking out. We talked a lot about that with Jose, but you kind of saw it with Nuno too. And I don't think it was Nuno's fault. I think a lot of it had to do with one of the biggest leaders on the team being a sort of toxic parasite. Now Harry Kane has sort of said he's fully backing Tottenham now with this decision of Conte. And it shouldn't take a management appointment to get that feeling for your club. Let's clear that there. That should just be how it is. You shouldn't have to hire a manager who in your eyes is a star in order to get that back, right? But I think Harry Kane still has questions to answer for. He did not play that great on Sunday. Like I said, the defense still has a lot of holes. I think Ben Davies is a good option for the interim, but I don't think he's permanent. Eric Dyer still raises questions. Now, you talk about Romero. Romero thrives in that 3-back. He thrives because
he was the king of the match according to the Premier.
The way he moved forward, the way he was, energetic.
He also played that at Atalanta.
Yeah. No, I know. That's what I'm saying. So the way he was energetic in his attack and excited and going forward, I just loved it. I think he was great. I think Son didn't have his best game. I think Lucas was still good. Hugo made some big saves again. But when it comes down to it, we got to talk about Tanguy and Gio. And I think what you mentioned was literally something I had in my notes to talk about, which was Tanguy and Gio are two of the players in our club who are put under the microscope most often by our fan base, I think. The conversations, any day on Twitter, it's, do we sell Gio? Is Gio good enough? How many chances are we going to give him? Stuff like that. When in reality, these two players are very creative players. They're very, they know what they like to do. They're very, they're not a player that is universal, I'd say. They kind of have a purpose, right? It's creativity in the midfield. And they've had 4 different managers with 4 different playing styles and 4 different roles to try and figure out, and cultures to figure out, and personalities to figure out. It's going to be, we need to give them some time. But I think that we only had 1 shot on target, right?
Yeah. Well, no. Well, what was the Celso or no?
Yeah, I think that was the only shot on target we had.
Was that the only one?
So
does that count on target though if it hits post?
I think it does.
Okay.
But to my point, you see that little brilliance out of Lo Celso that he can hit that, he could do that. There's still something there. And for people to,
but this is the thing, those Lo Celso did hit that, but I will say Conte has been a motivator. He's been an incentive for these players to actually have a will to fight for something. Because I feel like the players now have the support of the club of, okay, we have a guy who knows what he's doing. Not necessarily the guys in the past didn't, but I'm saying a guy that knows what he's doing, and his presence has not just made an impact, but has changed the way we look into this game. You know, and the way that Tottenham the club is, I feel like every team has been through. Even you and I, we know exactly what the feeling is. It's just things don't connect, chemistry's low, people are blaming everyone else, no one's holding each other accountable. You know, there's lack of leadership, there's lack of unity. Everyone's been there. And there's always someone who can kind of bring people together. And I think Conte has been that guy. And I think the role he plays as, a manager has, not only brought the team together, but, tactically and just overall knowledge, I think he's absolutely perfect.
Totally. I think, and I want to say something about that real quick. A theme we've talked about on the podcast a lot is like how certain clubs are bigger than the Premier League, right? And that's why they have the power to inspire certain fan bases and things like that. The same goes for players and people, right? I think when you have a manager like Nuno, Harry Kane, maybe it's not conscious, but he feels like he's bigger than the manager. Him as a personality, Harry Kane is bigger than Nuno Espirito Santo, right? Mm-hmm. So for him to try and get behind that might seem like some sort of demotion or like hard for him because, it's like, no matter what, I'm playing. I'm Harry Kane, It's I can't remember the guy's name in Ted Lasso, but it's similar to that guy. What's his name?
Oh, Jamie Tart.
Yeah, Jamie Tart. It's similar to that when he first kind of gets there. It's like that. It's like you have such a big personality. It's almost bigger than the manager, right? So then you got a guy like Conte who comes in who, hey, guess what, Harry? He's actually got a resume of trophies and stuff, And now Conte is bigger than everyone. So this is now like
someone could argue though. Sorry to cut you off, but someone could argue, well, Jose.
Jose was the same. Jose was the same. Why do you think that Harry popped off under Jose?
Oh, I guess he did pop up under Jose. Good point.
And so did Son. So Jose is outdated in his management styles and techniques. Yeah. And that's really all it was. I still think he's a fantastic manager. He might even reach success at Roma. But the thing is with Conte, it's now you have to prove yourself, right? It's like going to an open tryout and no one has seen you play and no one knows your name. You don't have the clout of your coach backing you. And even if you play bad, he still knows that, oh, I'm good, right? You go to this, it's clean slate with Conte. And that he's the type of guy that does not give, pardon my French, a shit about who you were beforehand, right? He doesn't care.
As he comes off like that, which is great.
And that's what right. And even if he's not like, he doesn't actually think like that. If he gives off that vibe and that mentality, that's huge for building a team that is structured around the team, not a bunch of individual players. So
I agree.
I had to bring that in there because I think it's a great point you bring up about how Conte is bigger than the players right now.
Well, did you see the choice of words when he was interviewed? Just like,
no, go ahead.
And that's another thing too. Like when both Robbies and Rebecca Lowe were chatting about this on Premier League Morning yesterday before Tottenham played Everton, yesterday. One of the Robbies said, forget who, but one of the Robbies was talking about how he loves Conte's word choice of like passion, will to fight, and like play like attractive football for the fans. Like, not a side that's up and down, but a stable side throughout the whole thing. So like his word choice, I thought was so critical in terms of necessarily what he kind of puts off himself, his presence amongst everybody, around everybody. You see him at Chelsea and he's grabbing the back of players, get your ass to the line, like kind of like the way Jose is, in a strict, but like a demeanor that's not necessarily mean, but he's going to get your attention.
Demanding.
He's demanding. But he's different in Jose. He's not a dick. In my eyes, I don't think he's a dick. He might be a dick. Who knows? Jose's a dick. I think Jose's a complete dick.
Yeah.
But
well, I also think it goes to say
argue Conte, but like I think his philosophy in terms of what he tries to like I said, instill in players is, I'm curious to know how Tanguy's going to react under him.
Well, I saw a tweet that said that Conte had started doing individual training sessions with Tanguy, saying that he was going to be one of the biggest pieces of his team at Spurs.
That's interesting.
I don't know if it's true or what the truth is to that, but.
And like another tweet that we saw, and I know you saw too, was the fact that training went over half an hour when he had a press conference at 1:30. Did you hear about this?
Mm-mm.
he had a press conference. Antonio Conte had a press conference at like 1:30 p.m. and training went an hour past because he didn't want to finish because he wanted what he wanted to get done. We weren't getting done yet. So he's like, I'm gonna be late. So like that type of mentality. I'm gonna be late to my press conference because this is more important. Type
Right.
thing,
Right.
You know, and so you're curious to know what's going on behind the scenes, and that's when that All or Nothing documentary is so interesting because we saw the perspective of Jose,
Totally.
and I think honestly with that series, one of the best times to ever have it under Jose, I think is absolutely critical
Yeah.
to watch that and learn that and understand that. And then now, I don't know. I'm very, very excited, but I have a prediction and I'm curious to know what you think of this.
Okay.
But my
Let's hear it.
prediction here is, Conte, I think, is going to maybe make another name for himself here or get Tottenham back to maybe a winning way. But I do see him in the future taking over United.
Interesting. Why?
Why? I don't think his position at United's off the table.
So
And
you think if
I think he will still do something here with Tottenham, but I don't think he'll be done after us.
no.
I think United is a job on the list that he's not necessarily shooting down. That might be a future thing, but I could see it. Ole won't be there forever. Ole won't be there forever. We know that.
No.
But I'm
As much as we want him, as much as we want him to be.
As much, right? I would not be surprised though if Conte was someone to replace him in the next, say, within the next decade.
Yeah, I mean, that's very interesting.
Or after us. But the reason why I say that is because the Barabis were talking about it. It was interesting on Premier League morning. We're talking about like trophies and how Tottenham was going to line up this year under Conte and if we could win a trophy. And then Rebecca Lowe said, well, why do you think Conte took this position knowing United could have been a potential job? And I think that's when one of the Robbies said, well, I think he can really put Spurs on the map. And
I think
Spurs to be like, listen, Spurs were not winning anything for this long, and look what I just did.
Well, it's a different sort of challenge taking on Spurs.
It's a different challenge. Absolutely a different challenge.
We talked about it during the manager search this summer, how it was almost hard to believe that no one wanted to take up this Spurs job and have this opportunity to almost, you have nothing to lose because they already aren't winning anything, right?
Yeah, right.
If Conte was to take up the United job, I think it would have been very similar to the roles he took in the past with Inter and maybe not Inter, but definitely Chelsea, right? We need to get back to this way as we have these good players. You have a bunch of money. Get back to the winning ways, right? With Tottenham, it's almost this institutional feeling of loss that you have as a Spurs fan because it has happened, but it almost feels like really hasn't happened, We're getting to that point where it's like, are we ever going to win, in our lifetimes? I know we've all had those thoughts. So this challenge that Conte has under Spurs is way different. And I think could pay off in dividends for him as a manager and his reputation, right? If Conte is able to do what he did at Chelsea, Juventus, and Inter, and then come to Spurs, he means business, right? He wants to take on this challenge. And like you said, after the Everton game, he seemed so excited about this challenge that he has, right? It is a challenge.
I think he has such a descriptive vision in his head that he could kind of tell anybody at the moment. I think he has such a good plan in his head. That's why he's so confident. Like, you have no idea what I'm about to do to you guys, like in a good way.
Right. No, I go ahead.
No, it's just absolutely fascinating because he comes in and all these managers have said the same thing. Oh, top class stadium, top class facilities, top class training ground. This is the place you want to be, blah, 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 And so, you wonder how much of the niceness plays a part.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
No, I go ahead.
No. It's just interesting because ever since we built our new stadium, things have kind of been shit.
Right.
Well, yeah, because we went to the Champions League final when our stadium was being built, right? Or am I tripping?
Yeah, I think so. I'm looking up right
No, no,
now
no, no, no,
when.
no, 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 no. Wait, did we play City in Wembley or no?
Okay,
No,
the
we didn't.
stadium opened with a
No.
ceremony on 3rd
Right.
April 2019 before its first competitive senior game. So in April of 2019. So
April 20. Okay, yeah. So we played City. Wait, when did we go to the Champions League final?
we're on 2.5 years of this stadium now.
Damn, are we really?
So that's what I was saying too. Is like Tottenham, new stadium, new training grounds, new.
Yeah,
It's so like there's so much potential here.
that was two
Is it
years
even
ago.
new anymore? Is it even new anymore? Because it's 2.5 years old, right? When can we stop advertising our new stadium as what we have to offer as a club, right? It's just our
Tell
stadium at this
someone
point,
get someone better.
right? That's what we have to do. So Conte's coming in. It's almost like let's change the Tottenham have a great stadium to Tottenham are a good club. Tottenham are a big club, right? So that's what's exciting to me. I got to ask though. Here's two questions to
Yeah.
finish this out, maybe. Number one, let's say Conte does really well, brings us back to where we were for the next 2 or 3 years. Okay, he's with us for that long. Would you feel the same sort of emotional connection to him as you did Pochettino?
Ooh, no,
Why not?
because Pochettino has a connection that is different than I would have now. Because when Pochettino was there, the club I thought was totally different state. In addition to, I thought his accomplishment and the way we value his accomplishment is a lot different than what we value accomplishment now with Tottenham. I
Yeah, but
figure.
like if Conte was able to actually win something,
Do you think like the connection we have with Conte could be the same way we have Poch? I mean, potentially, yeah.
it's
But
interesting to think about, right?
well, yeah, I get that. And it's so. I remember when under Poch, we were so confident. Everything was so great under Poch. We were so everything was
Life
great.
was good.
Life was great. We're like we have one of the best managers. I mean, we did arguably, but who knows? It could be even better. It could be even better now because now not only we have someone with a history, but like Poch didn't have a necessarily like a strong history. I mean, he I think coached back at Espanyol and then went to Southampton, and then we got him from Southampton. But nothing, I guess that was out there that stuck with us. Again, though, when we picked Pochettino up, Tottenham wasn't Tottenham now.
Right.
We weren't picking up the Contes back then. Back then, that's like Jose getting picked up. But we pick up Jose 5 years later. So,
it's interesting. I was listening to ESPN FC, the podcast, and they were talking about Conte when he first got hired or was rumored to be hired with Spurs right after Nuno got sacked. And they were talking about how Conte would be a bad appointment for Spurs because they needed someone like Pochettino, like he did in the past, and kind of almost reinstitute the same thing that Pochettino did. And I thought that was a terrible take because we're not the same team we were when Poch took over. We have great players. We have players with reputation. We have some sort of status as a expectation as a club, as a top 4, top 6 club, where we can expect to be ahead of Arsenal. We can expect to do this. We can expect to do that.
Put it this way, I don't think Pochettino or anyone could have done what they did with Tottenham when Poch was there.
Yeah. Right.
What Poch did with Tottenham, I think, is arguably one of the best things a manager has done for a club in terms of just bringing them from a mid-table team to a top 6 in a competing.
Yeah, yes and no, because you look at
Leicester. Look at Leicester. Leicester won the league, and then ever since Leicester won the league, or even before that, they're never a consistent top 4.
Well, they're consistent above us right now.
I'm not arguing that. I'm not arguing them being better than us. That's fine. But Arsenal will never finish better than what they do now, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, no, I think
Arsenal will always finish 5th, 6th, 4th, maybe 4th, but they're not good enough to finish 4th. So, like, did I say Arsenal or Leicester?
You said Leicester.
Okay, Leicester. Yeah, that's what I meant to say. Leicester. It's like there's certain clubs out there that will always finish their same consistency.
No, I know, but like you look at what Poch did with us, then he really didn't accomplish that much.
What do you mean? He finished what? last 10 years, we've always finished in a Champions League or a Europa League spot.
Right, but that's the same as you could argue that's the same as Leicester, right?
No.
They also won the league and the FA Cup.
Yeah, they won the league. They did win. Yeah, winning the league is.
So I'm just trying to like, I'm just trying to
I know
say,
you're being devil's advocate, and that's fine. But all I'm trying to point out here, what?
It's just funny.
I mean, any Leicester fan could argue with this me. Could argue this with me anytime. They will never finish better than they do now. They could have a title, and you know what? End of the story. They have a trophy better than us. Sucks, but they're not going to finish top 4. They're not.
No, I don't think they will. But that's not my point. It's just interesting to say, like, I think we hold Poch on this pedestal, and we're kind of getting away from it now. But we hold Poch on this pedestal because what we had as experience as fans for those years was incredible, right? But like when you look at it on paper, like we got second, third, fourth, third, whatever, and then 6, and now what are we?
We're shit. We're shit.
Right?
And you can tell me we're shit. I'm not going to take that offensive. But
I'm not saying you will, but it's interesting, right? Like Poch did so much for us, and almost every fan will say that, but he still wasn't able to get Spurs win anything, right?
Yeah. So you wonder, okay, well, what did he do?
Right.
So that's why I think Conte would be kind of the finish it off. Like I feel like Poch could get us to the final, but Conte could get us to win it.
Totally.
As opposed to, Conte or Poch could get us there, but he won't win it. Now I think Conte will get us there, and Conte will win it.
So that's what I was getting at.
Yeah.
So
that's I knew you were getting that, and I completely get it, and it makes sense. And I honestly think Pochettino will be the same way there at Tottenham as he is at PSG. Sadly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it sucks, but that's the difference in what we look into managers and what Patricia's looking at, and that's why it's so critical to have that success on your resume. Don't get me wrong. If Pochettino ever gets fired, someone would definitely pick him up. But with that Conte being Conte, it's just that he's one-upping all those great managers already. Think about that. Pochettino is such a great manager, and you telling me that he's a big step above him already because of the stuff that he's done in the past. I mean, even winning 3 Serie A titles in 3 seasons back to back with Juventus is, nuts. I mean, that's like Pep. That's like Pep doing City things back 4 times in a row. I mean, it's unheard of. So who knows? And you could argue that Conte is up there with Pep status.
I think
you could argue.
So here's where that comes into play.
But you could argue if you put Conte up there, then Tuchel goes up there, Klopp's up there.
No, and here's why. Here's where I think Conte can earn himself that badge. Is Tottenham. Tottenham's a challenge. Tottenham's a challenge that no manager wanted to take because it's scary and it could ruin you as a manager.
Yeah.
And I guess we'll see.
It's a risk.
So this leaves me with our closing question, right? This leaves me with the closing question. We were, this time last week, hadn't played a game with Conte yet. We were flying high. Everyone is ecstatic. But then we got humbled a bit in these last 2 games. I really do think we did. With 4 points in 2 games, okay, I'll take it. However, we got humbled a little bit. Do you think, are you any less excited now or more excited after these past 2 games, and why? For Conte, for the Conte era. And will it be the era? Will it be the time will it be Spurs' time to shine? To dare is to do. The game is about glory. All these things that are in Spurs' DNA have never played out on the pitch for us in our lifetimes. So when is it? Is this the time? Bam. There are no technical difficulties. Matt is just struggling to come up with a response.
Yeah, I am. I'm still thinking.
Well, I'll give you my answer. Okay.
I think you and I have the same answer.
I think, yeah, honestly, I think it can be. I think it can be. It all
100%.
depends on the next couple of months. But
Put it this
I
way,
really
then.
do
I
think it
am
can
more
be.
confident winning the trophy now than I've ever been. I mean, I'm more confident winning the trophy now than I was when we were in the Champions League final beating Liverpool, or Carabao Cup beating City. Like, it's like there's a difference being put into a final and going into it, and you're like, hopefully we can win. Hopefully we can win. Not we can beat them. Oh, I'm fine. We'll beat them. Or it's gonna be a good game, type thing like that.
Totally.
I feel like we've not really been like, we've competed, but we've not really competed.
Right. So
and now we have that missing piece is all we needed.
there it is, ladies and
Creasy
gentlemen.
basically did it all.
We have the opportunity ahead of us. A great first week under the Conte era. We'll see how we feel after we have an international break, so we'll feel after the international break. The big news, however, is that we do have our first great debate coming out on Friday. We think you guys will really like this series that we have coming for you. It's different. It's fun. It's energetic. It's going to be a lot of banter. So get ready for that. Thank you guys for listening. As always, be sure to check us out on Instagram, Twitter, _Tottenham_talk. And, we are on YouTube as well. Trying to get a little visual out there as well. Sometimes it's more fun to watch. Thank you guys for listening. And as always, come on, you Spurs.